Hi everyone, so this is the poem Krisis. Again, not an in-depth analysis, but I do believe enough for you to understand what the poem actually is about. So titel, spreker beleef 'n krisis en die inhoud sê wat die krisis is, die stryd tussen hoof en hart. So it says that the speaker is experiencing a crisis and the content of the poem tells us what the crisis is, and it's this battle between head and heart. Spreker beleef innerlike konflik oor keuse om te skei. The speaker is experiencing internal conflict to separate the head from the heart. Dit bestaan uit een woord wat die spanning verhoog. It consists of one word that heightens the tension. Then we have an ek spreker in the poem, a first person speaker, and this is obvious through the pronouns that are used. They use pronouns like ek. What does this do? Maak die gedig realisties, geloofwaardig en persoonlik. It makes the poem realistic, believable and personal. Then thema, the theme, besluite wat die mens moet neem, choices people have to make, and specifically innerlike konflik tussen logika en emosies, the internal conflict between logic and emotions, which one should you listen to? Then rhyme scheme, lines 1 to 12, we have omarmde rhyme, which is A-B-B-A, and then line 13 and 14 is paarrym, so A-A, rymende couplet, a rhyming couplet. Opsomming summary, die spreker sê dat die hoof en hart moet skei, want die pad wat hulle saam geloop het, waar die hart gelei het, was eens mooi, maar nou is die pad gevaarlik. So the speaker is saying that the head and heart must separate because the road that they used to walk together where the heart was leading was once beautiful, but now this road is dangerous. Dis nie 'n maklike besluit nie. It's not an easy decision to separate the head from the heart. Italiaanse sonnet is an Italian sonnet, so octave in the octave, beeld, the image, beskrywing van die letterlike en figuurlike pad. It's a description of the literal and figurative road that the head and the heart have been walking together. Skeiding en redes daarvoor word gegee, and then the separation is mentioned, and the reasons for the separation is also given. Then in the sestet, toepassing, application, onsekerheid van die skeidingsproses. There's like uncertainty about the separation process, maar maak die finale besluit, but the final decision to separate is made. Then tydsverloop, the mention of time and time passing within this poem. Die hede, the present, verlede, past, en toekoms, and future is depicted in the poem. Then we have inversie, which is swapped around word order. In line 1, dis hier wat ons twee skei, jy hart en ek. So it's here where the two of us separate, you, heart, and me. Ek aan die einde beklemtoon die besluit. The ek at the end emphasizes that it is the speaker who is thinking with their head, who is making this decision. Then we have an aandagstreep, a dash, and it's in that first line. So you see we have the twee skei, dash, jy hart en ek. Verduideliking volg, so an explanation is following about who's separating. In vestig aandag op die skei, that's what I just said. But then very important, dui die skeiding visueel on by literally having that broken space in there is almost visually depicting to us that there is going to be a separation. Then we have elisie, and we use this in Afrikaans when you leave out certain sounds in a word. So geluid, it's supposed to be gelei het. Why is that done? Ter wille van ritme en rhyme, it's done for the rhythm and the rhyme scheme of the poem. Then we have wending, which is a twist in the poem or a change in the poem, and it's indicated by the word maar dis verby, al staar jy terug, but this is over even if you stay back. So it's saying die hart het goed gelei, maar dis nou verby. The heart led really well and they had a good time, but despite that good time, the relationship has to end. Then beeldspraak, imagery, personifikasie, personification. Hart en hoof, eie naam hoofletter. So making hart and hoof, or writing with a capital letter, making it a proper noun, is personification. Hart en hoof word as persone beskryf, maar verteenwoordig emosies en logika. So they are kind of depicted as people, but what they are doing is just representing emotions, heart, and logika, logic, hoof. And then just another example of how they are turned into people is by saying al staar jy terug in line 4, saying even if the heart is staring back, and this just shows us that the heart does not want to separate. Die hart wil nie skei nie. Then we have a retoriese vraag, a rhetorical question. Kan jy dit nie begryp? So asking the heart, can you not comprehend this? Sukkel om van die hart te skei. The speaker is struggling to separate from the heart because they had a good time, but die hart moet die situasie verstaan. The heart has to understand the situation, understand why the speaker wants to separate. What does the rhetorical question do? Betrek die leser. It involves us as the reader. Then in enjambment, when one line flows into another. Octa, so in the octave, tempo vinniger, the tempo is faster. Why? Haastig om besluit uit te voer om verdere probleme te voorkom. So the speaker is in a rush to execute the decision they made to separate to make sure that no other problems arise. And then sesde, tempo stadiger, there the tempo is slower. Why? Twyfel oor die besluit. The speaker is going a little back and forth about whether or not they should do this, maar voer dit uit, but at the end actually decides to separate. Then self-figure figures of speech, contrast. We have line 3 versus line 5. Line 3 says, Die weg was lieflik waarlangs jy geleid. So the road was lovely that you led at first. But then in line 5, die pad langs klowe, afgrond en moeras. Now the road follows next to ravines, canyons and swamps. So it shows us that it went from a road that was positief, was goed, it was something positive, it was something good, versus negatief, something negative, nou gevaarlik, now it's dangerous. Then line 6, voortvarend en 'n lafaard soos altyd. So brisk to make decisions and then a coward like always. So the contrast is between voortvarend, gaan oor tot aksie, goes over to action quickly, versus lafaard, coward, te bang om op te tree, too scared to act. Then in line 9, we have jy was die gas en gasheer by die fees. You were the guest and host at the festival. So gas, guest, is someone that is like being entertained at an event versus gasheer, the host, that is doing the entertaining. And this just is the deeper meaning. Het nie geweet wat die hart volgende gaan doen nie. It was really difficult to predict what the heart is going to do next. And then line 10, die ceremoniemeester en die nar, so the master of ceremonies and the clown. So ceremoniemeester, the master of ceremonies, formeel, laat program verloop, they're making sure that the program's running smoothly, versus nar, clown, informeel, it's informal, iemand wat vermaak, someone who is entertaining, and again, het nie geweet wat die hart volgende gaan doen nie. The speaker did not know what the heart was going to do next, what the next act was going to be for the heart. And then we have synecdoche, synecdoche, hart en hoof, with the heart and head. Gebruik 'n klein gedeelte om na 'n geheel te verwys. It's when we are using something small to refer to a whole. So in this case, hart verwys na emosies. Heart is representing emotions. En hoof na verstand. And head to mind. And then we have euphemism that's making something harsh softer in line 12, waar elke tree die laaste tree mag wees. So they're saying this road that you have led me on, there's always a possibility where each step could be the last step. And this just means die dood word versag, death is being softened with using laaste tree, last step. And the last few things regarding the poem, so tyd in die gedig, time in the poem, hede, present, besluit om van die hart te skei, the speaker is deciding to separate from the heart, verlede, past, dink terug aan die goeie tye, thinking back of the good times that they had, and then toekoms, future, moet nou besluit maak sodat daar 'n toekoms is. The speaker has to make the decision to separate from the heart now so that there is a future, because remember in the poem, it says that the road that the heart has led them on has actually become so dangerous that it could cause death. And then line 8, en siek daarby is jy net las, and siek along with it, and now you are only a burden. So las is the Afrikaans word for burden. Las, hoef het nie meer die hart nodig nie. It's saying that the head and the speaker kind of does not need the heart to make decisions anymore, and there's a kind of bitterheid towards the heart because of the road that it's led them on. Then strofe 2, baie dubbelsinnigheid, a lot of ambiguity. In stanza 2, verskillende persoonlikhede van die hart word beklemtoon, and this is emphasizing the different personalities of the heart. Rede is vir vasbeslote besluit om te skei, so reasons for determined decision to separate. Een hart is voortvarend, impulsief, so the heart jumps over to action quickly, which means it's impulsive. 2 hart is 'n lafaard, te bang om op te tree. 2, the heart is a coward, too scared to act. 3, hart is besluiteloos, tree uit jammerte, liefde en terwille van vrede op. The heart is indecisive, and it acts out of pity, out of love, and for peace. 4, hart is siek, iets is fout, the heart is sick, something is wrong. Then line 11, jou dwaase raad kan net die hoof verwar, so your foolish advice can only confuse their head. Dom of verkeerde raad sluit aan by strofe 1, waar die hart as 'n lafaard beskryf word. So this dumb and wrong advice links to stanza 1, where the heart is described as a coward, as a lafaard, because dwaase and lafaard are very similar in the fact that one is like foolish and the other one is coward. And then line 13 and 14, kyk, dit word laat, die kermis is verby. So look, it's getting late, the fair is over. Kan jy dit nie begryp? Can't you understand? Hier moet ons skei, here we have to separate. So sluit aan by versels 1 en 2 skei. It links to lines 1 and 2 that talks about the separation. Weglating van nie vir ritme. Leaving out like the double negative there by the question is purposeful, but it's for the rhythm of the poem. And then line 1 to 2, it just says the ek maak intenties duidelik. The speaker, the I is making the intentions very clear, but maar in lines 3 to 12, dwal af, volg eie pad soos hart. They actually kind of dwindle off of the road of making this decision to separate. And that's very similar to the own path that the heart is actually following. And in line 13 and 14, circle word voltooi skei, they get to the final decision of separating, and therefore the circle is completed. They started with talking about a separation, and it actually ends in a separation. Okay, this poem was almost the end of me, but let me tell you, getting information online about who the speaker actually is very difficult. So I've done from the approach that even in the DBE booklet, they don't really specify that the speaker is the head. But to me, when I read this poem, the speaker is the head, but I didn't take that approach. I said because the speaker is deciding to separate from the heart and listen to the head, we can say that the head and the speaker are obviously acting together. So yeah, but as I said, this poem, it took a lot out of me.